Part of the reason Universal's holding the next Incredible Hulk movie hostage is because they don't really need it. Jurassic World proved that 3 years ago by making $1.5 billion, with one of Marvel's Chris's, no less. As if to say, you think we need you? Well, fuck you. Watch us poach one of your stars and make your kind of money without even really trying. For a second, some of my colleagues labeled Jurassic World the worst movie of 2015, which is an impossibility since Fantastic and Terminator Genesis still exist. Hell, every movie from 2015 feels like an artifact of the before time, when there were perfect things, including perfectly awful things. But shit, I've lived through 2 bad Jurassic Park sequels at this point. 3 of them, technically, since Crichton's Lost World novel and the movie Spielberg made are 2 very different animals. What's one more for the pile, eh? 2 hours later. Okay, wow. Jurassic World is what happens when you have 10 years worth of scripts, 3 companies worth of producers, and a director who has only the vaguest idea of what the fuck he's doing. It's like a coral reef of bad ideas, growing out of the submerged corpse of the original bad idea of making a sequel to Jurassic Park in the first place. Granted, Crichton's novel does end on a cliffhanger, but since all of the foreshadowing for that cliffhanger got cut out of the movie, none of the 3 sequels I've seen, at the time of this writing, have even bothered to follow up on it. Jurassic World's title practically begs to take advantage of Crichton's original cliffhanger. The idea that some dinosaurs, particularly velociraptors, had escaped, that their natural migratory instincts and chimpanzee-level smarts combined to allow them to reach the mainland and seek high ground just in time for hurricane season. Costa Rica's almost nothing but jungle-covered mountains anyway, as close to the Mesozoic as you can get without going to the Congo. Or Hawaii, the perfect place for human-sized predators to spread all up and down the Americas. But since the original movie took place on an island, the immutable laws of brand recognition dictate every Jurassic Park movie do the same. So we open 20 years after the events of Jurassic Parks 1, 2, and 3. The corporate bastards of InGen, having learned precisely nothing from previous films, rebuilt the park and actually made it work sometime in the interim. Glory be, saints be praised. We start off with 2 brothers who are getting shipped off to Jurassic World because their parents are very obviously getting a divorce. And you can see the shades of when this was still a Spielberg production. This is the first of many subplots that will never be resolved except in the most hollow and platitudinous way, to the point where even calling them subplots feels like giving them too much credit. Because these aren't our main characters. They're just the kids the main characters are going to spend the whole movie babysitting. Because, well, there were 2 siblings in the first movie, so our main character is actually the brother's aunt, Claire, Jurassic World's PR person, VP in charge of showing angel investors around the labs. Fuck it, I'm checking the wiki. Operations manager. Okay, whatever. And shout out to Dr. Wu, now that I'm thinking about him. Looks like at least one person survived the events of the first film without any embarrassing lawsuits or professional censure. Hell, Wu's still got his original job, and his new bosses are even more hands-off than Mr. Spared No Expense, except when it came to staffing and backup generators. Driven by the needs that rule all aspects of the entertainment industrial complex these days. The need, in their words, for everything to be bigger, louder, and have more teeth. Wu's cooking up new hybrid dinosaurs, designed by corporate committee and built from the DNA up for the sole purpose of impressing the rubes. Exactly like this film. And I'm amazed that none of our filmmakers broke their own arms patting themselves on the back for this subtext that's so incredibly obvious. It's just the text, guys. I mean, that's not how subtext works. It's like, will, quote-unquote, natural dinosaurs defeat the genetic abomination our modern Frankensteins have made? Once again illustrating the inevitable triumph of the natural world over corporate-sponsored mad science. I'll give you the rest of this review to puzzle that one out. Dr. Wu's latest and greatest creation is the Indominus Rex. Indominus being Latin for untamable or fierce, showing Jurassic World's naming committee had no sense of irony whatsoever. The I-Rex needs a once-over from resident dinosaur whisperer Owen before it can be really shown to the public. And Claire needs to go pull Owen out of his trailer so he can hit on her. So Claire pawns her nephews off on her assistant because the boys need to escape somehow. How else could they get lost in the park? And how else could everyone reunite later into one big unhappy family? Owen's our real main character. So main, he's played by a Chris, and right there on the fucking poster. An ex-Navy man, now training raptors to do party tricks because he's a refugee from a previous Jurassic Park 4 script. And getting earfuls of straight-up fascist bullshit from his boss, the head of park security, Hoskins. TV's Kingpin sees Owen's little raptor squad as the first in a literal new breed of special operations soldier. Hoskins feels that the military-industrial complex will inevitably come demanding their own pet raptors. Because as he sees it, quote, war is part of nature. War is a struggle. Struggle produces greatness. Without that, we end up in places like this. Charges $7 a soda. Unquote. One could just as easily argue that 7-Buck Chuck corn syrup and the American corporate empire, TMCR, that produced it are themselves the product of a long chain of successfully won wars. But arguing with fascists is pointless, so shout out to whichever member of Raptor Squad winds up turning Hoskins into a chew toy. She gets it. I know Antifa cat girls are all the rage nowadays, and as an old school Catwoman fan, I totally get it. But once you've had scales, everything else fails. Eventually, the I-Rex manages to pull one over, not just on Claire and Owen, but the entire technological apparatus at their backs, and escape its enclosure. Dr. Wu eventually justifies this with the series' patented pseudogenetics, because why not? Worked for Ang Lee's Hulk movie. At least for me, if nobody else. But context is for kings, and we are dealing with another Rex. Spielberg et al. Made the T-Rex, T. Regina, really, but whatever, the de facto hero of the first film, about halfway through shooting. And as far as I can tell, they plan to make her the sympathetic anti-hero of the second film from the start. Because, hey, everybody loves a Tyrannosaurus, and raptors are easier to sell as a personal threat anyway. They can follow you into places a T-Rex can't fit, and are generally understood to be smart. Though recent CAT scans of T-Rex brain cases provide compelling evidence that the Rexes were just as smart. But never mind actual paleontology. According to producer logic, this pattern required a degree of one-upsmanship. So the Spinosaurus became the bad dinosaur of Jurassic Park 3, and they had it defeat a T-Rex almost as soon as we saw it, just to make sure we knew what we were dealing with. Here comes the fourth film, and our filmmakers feel they have to top that. They chose to do that by finally throwing all pretense to the wind, making a new dinosaur out of whole cloth, and then making it straight up evil. Or crazy, but unfortunately that means the same thing to most of my puritanical reactionary dipshit country. Owen does suggest that raising the I-Rex in isolation from everything but its own sibling, which it ate, of course, because, evil, or crazy, may have something to do with the indiscriminate killing spree it goes on once it gets out. But dwelling on the sympathetic backstory of our antagonist dinosaur for more than one scene might confuse the in-real-life rubes. Oh, excuse me. Pardon me. I meant paying customers. Audience members. So when he and Claire, on the trail of the I-Rex, pull up to a field of dead herbivores, Owen makes sure to note it didn't eat him. It's killing for sport. And I start wondering if Owen has Frank Black from Millennium's powers of post-cognition on top of his innate power of raptor whispering. And this is going to be one of the pickiest nits I've ever picked, but seriously? Dude? You're tracking an animal that must weigh at least 8 tons, and all you brought was a mare's leg with an 8x scope? I mean, what the fuck is this? Battlefield 4? This might as well be Battlefield 4 once Jurassic World's new CEO straps a minigun to a helicopter and tries to take out the I-Rex all by himself. But since he's barely level 30 and hasn't done any of the grinding you need to do to unlock the anti-air defenses, all this does is kill him, the 2 guys who were dumb enough to get into the helicopter with him, and knock open the aviary, releasing all the pterosaurs upon an unsuspecting populace of park goers. Credit where it's due, the pterosaur's strafing run does finally provide a taste of what this movie sold itself on. We were supposed to watch the trailers and go, oh, it's like the first movie, but bigger, longer, and uncut. I mean, bigger, louder, and with more teeth. I mean, it's like the first movie, but this time the park's going to be populated when all the dinosaurs get out. Visions of crowds stampeding each other as they tried to escape a stampede of ankylosaurs were supposed to fill our heads. Of T-Rexes with scraps of loud Hawaiian shirts stuck between their teeth. Of velociraptors painting the Jurassic World equivalent of Main Street, USA red with the blood of dumbass tourists until the whole place looked like that hallway from the end of Cabin in the Woods. Unfortunately, there's only so much mass death you can depict in a film to maintain that coveted PG-13 rating, rendering the execution of all this completely toothless, as it was designed to be from the word go, by committee. It's also why so many of my colleagues spent weeks after this movie came out discussing the death of Claire's poor assistant. Ah, fuck. Now I gotta look up her name again. Zara. The senseless, but still PG-13 brutality of her death by mosasaur shocked people out of the full body numbness the rest of the movie induced in them, largely without them even noticing. Either the sight of a dimorphodon lifting a grown-ass woman off the ground overloaded their pedantry circuits, or the sight of a character with all of 3 lines, who'd been MIA for half an hour, getting the kind of death other movies usually reserve for supervillains, made them go, what the actual fuck? And then call director Colin Trevorrow a misogynist. They had to remind people of the mosasaur's existence. Because that whole scene, where they make a whole big deal out of introducing it, was... what? Not memorable? The T-Rex has just as much to do with the climactic battle, and we barely see her for a second behind the heads of a whole crowd. But the short life and gratuitous death of Zara the poor PA is symptomatic of a larger issue. That all of these characters are equally disposable. Owen is Chris Pratt in Chris Pratt's second attempt to brand himself a cool action movie star in as many years. Brother Zach is the too cool for this shit teenager that this movie imagines its target audience to be. His presumably hardened heart eventually melted by the wonders of 21st century dinosaurs, especially as seen through the eyes of his little bro, Gray. Little bro Gray is the enthusiastic dinosaur nut of this picture, in that annoying Tim the human piece of toast mold. Claire, meanwhile, is the perpetually put-upon professional everywoman who has to learn the value of having kids. They're worth it, her sister, the brother's mother, says, in the one scene that only exists to blatantly state this. Might as well have Keenan Ivory Wayans pop up and go, "Message." It's the same message the first film delivered to paleontologist Alan Grant. Only it took the last 2 acts of the movie to do it, and never felt the need to state it outright. Besides, Claire's not really every woman, now is she? In the ranks of put-upon professional womanhood, there are a hell of a lot more Zaras out there than there are Claires. So many, in fact, that I suspect our filmmakers meant her over-the-top death as a joke. "Hey look, put-upon PAs of the world," they seem to say, "it's you." But instead of nodding, laughing in recognition, and going, "Yep," they all raised their middle fingers to this film in solidarity and said, "Hey, fuck you, buddy." First rule of comedy is read the fucking room. And your demonstrable inability to do so is probably what lost you your Star Wars job, Colin. Whatever. I'm just speculating. With the IREX on the loose and all the authorities above him dead, Hoskins calls in his cavalry of mercenaries that all look like Rainbow Six Siege character concepts. And suddenly it's nighttime. Sure, it was just afternoon, but that was a whole jump cut ago, man. Keep up. That's another thing. This movie's exactly 2 hours and 3 minutes long, and the last 10 minutes are almost all credits. That doesn't just happen, and whenever I see it, it instantly fills me with the fear. I have a nagging suspicion that all of the character-building moments that might have made me give a shit about, say, any of these people, are languishing somewhere on someone's cutting room floor. This movie pulls the few remaining, supposedly character-building moments it has right out of its ass. And it expects me not to notice. Hey, remember that thing we did that we've never brought up before now that's suddenly become really important to the plot? Good thing we did that thing, huh? We're brothers, by the way. We have to state that outright every few minutes, the way siblings never do. And we're afraid that if we don't state it outright in every scene that we're in, people might forget the soul-defining trait of our relationship. It's like that with all the humans, because this isn't the humans movie. It's all about the dinosaurs. And from a certain point of view, it always was. But both Spielberg and Joe Johnston made sure that the dinosaurs were always viewed from the perspective of their human characters. We saw the park and its animals through their eyes and from their eye level. This allowed us to vicariously experience their awe, their wonder, and their fear in a visceral way. That's what makes Jurassic Park good, still, even though it fails to meet most of the basic criteria people usually use to define a good story. Not just with the big ones, either. Look at those raptors. Look at how they're filmed during the now classic kitchen scene. The low angle implies dominance, but it also implies the kid's point of view as they scramble about the kitchens trying to avoid raptors, ensuring that, even if we're perpetually annoyed by these children, we at least have some understanding of how they feel, because we understand how we'd feel in their perspectives, because the movie goes out of its way to put us in their perspectives. There, I just saved you thousands of dollars on an intro to directing course. Please give me all that money. Trevorrow just straight up shows us full-body dinosaurs, and he sticks his camera anywhere he wants. Probably because this is his first action movie, and he's totally chugged the Kool-Aid about how CGI can let him put his camera anywhere. It's like he spent so much time wondering if he could that he never stopped to think about if he should. Like Hoskins, who pressed Gangs Owen into letting Raptor Squad off the chain and having them hunt down the IREX. That way we can finally get that shot of Star-Lord riding his motorcycle alongside them. Cover shot. This might not be the worst movie of 2015, but it is certainly the most goddamn ridiculous. And anticlimactic, since Raptor Squad turns on humanity after all of one conversation. With the I-Rex, of course. Wouldn't be a Jurassic Park movie if we didn't have a bit with the raptors here near the end, now would it? You see, it's like poetry. They rhyme. And like all hack poetry, it contradicts itself as soon as it can. Once the massacre's concluded, and they're face-to-face again with Chris Pratt, Raptor Squad switches sides again, precipitating the climactic battle. And just like the first movie, said battle involves a T-Rex. But this time, she's teaming up with Raptor Squad. And this is Jurassic Park's version of fan service. The bad dinosaurs of the first two films uniting to fight the bad dinosaur of this one, in the hope that they might blow past good and reach the magical land of being badass. And congratulations, Jurassic World. For 3 minutes here, almost right at the end, I almost care. A shameless hack might compare this to any number of Godzilla's movies, but fuck that! Even the worst of them contains at least one memorable character. Seiko, Queen of the Jungle, Miki Sagusa, Lieutenant Akane, Mephius, the Space Priest, Dr. Serizawa, no, not that one, the other one, Agent Philip Roche, DGSE. Anybody? Keep Godzilla's name out your mouth, is all I'm saying. You know it's too late, don't you? People loved this film, and they loved it by the only standard that actually counts. And they're going to love its sequel even more. It's never too late for the truth. And the truth is, people love dinosaurs. But we dinosaur lovers are starved for choices in this brave new world of ours. The monopolies that run Hollywood have decided, thanks to their worship of numbers, that we don't actually love dinosaurs. Or Jurassic Park, for that matter. It's worse than that. They think all we love is that logo. The T-Rex skeleton, wreathed in trees and trademarks. Because, of course, that's what they really love, and they're projecting harder than every IMAX in the world. But dinosaur movies are expensive. And no one has the guts to greenlight that expense unless they can also slap a recognizable brand logo onto it. And once they do, they'll still be too paranoid to do anything other than what has already been done, creating exactly the kind of 20-year after-the-fact sequel that I was afraid Blade Runner 2049 was going to be. The Jurassic Park franchise's own Alien Resurrection. So instead of bigger, louder, and more teeth, we get longer, dumber, and less bite. Welcome to Jurassic World indeed. Because it's their world, and the rest of us are just living in it. Well, that was dramatic. Yeah, you know, it's been a while since I've had one that I could just unapologetically shit on. Feels good. Like I'm working the anger issues out, you know? Then you're going to love what comes next. Thanks for watching, everyone. Special thanks to Mr. Hootie Dean, Detective Steve, and the After Movie Diner, our glorious patrons who make all of this possible. If you liked this video, hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button for more videos. And hit us up on Patreon. Next time, something else. Yeah, I don't know. Probably The Mummy. Yeah.